Well, hi, I'm John Hart, and welcome back to Mr. America Hart. All right, today, why should you train once every 3 to 5 days? Or like the thumbnail says, train once every 5 days. This is a topic that becomes more and more important the longer you work out. If your intention, by the way, as a bodybuilder is only to work out for the next couple of years and then flame out and be done, then fine. This shouldn't concern you. But the rest of y'all, which is y'all like me, who can go on for 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades later, I've done 4 so far, you're gonna need to know how to make those proper adjustments to your workouts, okay? And why you stop progressing. Why do you stop making the kind of progress that you want? As bodybuilders, we're interested in hypertrophy, growing muscle, okay? That is the primary. Okay, so if you're a bodybuilder like me and that's something that's interesting to you, then your priority should be that. Now, when we work out, some of y'all have seen me do this model before with my hands. If this is ground zero when you come to the gym to work out, meaning your energy levels, all of your subsystems are replenished and ready to go right here at ground zero, and you work out and you dig a hole of energy, your body has to fill that hole back in, bringing it back up to ground zero. Ground zero we can now give a new term to. That would be recovered. So you've just recovered from your workout. But we're not after just recovery. We're after overcompensation. Your body adding a little bit extra back to itself. In other words, growth, hypertrophy. That's what we really want, right? So remember the model. Work out, dig a hole of energy, fill the hole back in, and repair, right? Damage, repair. Overcompensation is returning the energy plus some, returning the damaged areas, fixing them, and then overcompensating by building an extra floor of a cell of muscles on your hotel of a bicep, on your hotel of muscle tissue, okay? So if that's clear, then you understand recovery precedes growth. It comes before growth. There is no such thing as working out and you've just grown. You have to recover and overcompensate, grow, but in that order, okay? So that's the main focus right here. Now, what is it that's strange or what changes when you're in your 20s working out? I'm gonna address you guys first. When you're in your 20s working out, and I say this because over half my audience, I know you guys are in that 24 to 40-ish range. So all of you guys, when you start working out, you may be able to do conventional type workouts as far as rest days go, where you work out every day or every other day, and you seem to recover and grow rather quickly. But what ends up happening is when you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, depending on the individual, depending on stress levels, or depending on your genetic factors, on how well you've been gifted with the ability to recover and grow, has a lot to do with enzymes in your system. So depending on a constellation of factors, injuries as well, think about that one, you now have to make adjustments as the years go by, because we still want to be a bodybuilder. We still want to go after the gains, right? So into the 20s, 30s, and 40s, it's a factor of time. When we go from digging that hole of energy, recover and overcompensate, the process, it's the same process. See how I just said that? Process. I went from process to process, like I just went Canadian on y'all. All right, I went from Texas to California to Canada. Wow. All right, let's just keep it that way, nice and simple. Process. That process, digging a hole of energy, filling it back in, overcompensating. In your 20s, 30s, it may happen rather quickly, a matter of a couple days. Boom, you're done. But as you get older, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, that process may linger and take a little bit longer. It's the same process. It's going to happen, and then you still have to reap the benefits of your workouts, which is overcompensation. If you've stimulated the muscle to grow, then my friends, you can still grow the muscle. But if you don't address the factor of, am I giving that muscle enough rest between, and here's the key word, very intense and or heavy and or maybe heavy workouts. So the more damage done in one workout, the less often you're going to be able to do that, especially as the decades go by. So as you go from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s and beyond, you're going to have to take an account for your different recovery ability and make changes to your workout. So instead of working out 6 days a week, you might work out 5, eventually moving that to 4, eventually moving that to 3, and all the different routines that go with it. I have 3 books you could check out when you have a chance, and you could check out the type of workouts that I recommend for anybody that's interested in training still with high intensity, but needs to respect their recovery. Okay? So that's one factor. There's a bunch of y'all. Now the other portion of my clients, of my subscribers, y'all are between 40-ish, 44-ish, and beyond, okay? Up to 64-ish, the majority. So you guys, if you're just starting to work out at that age, it's relative, okay? So if you can go ahead in the gym at that age and start working out, and you are recovering and overcompensating from your workouts very well, let's say on a 5 or 6 day a week workout, fine, go ahead and do that. But realize when the day comes when you cannot recover from that, you're going to have to make changes. And what does that look like? Okay, you're going to have to make changes along the way, along the lines of increasing the amount of time between intense, heavy, and or heavy workouts. I said it again, key phrase, okay? You're going to be tested on this later. Intense, heavy workouts. Intense and or heavy is the proper way of saying it. So you're going to have to account for that as the months, years go by, even if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s as a beginner, okay? So it doesn't matter when you start. You're just going to have to account for it when the ability to recover and overcompensate slows down or just stops happening. Now, there's certain strategies you could take, like taking regular breaks from training every 3 months or so, depending. I'll refer you to my book, Mr. America Shape Up Series, for a discussion I put in there about how long I would go before taking a break from training based on the intensity of the cycle of training that I was doing. That's something you have to consider. The more intense things you do, the shorter the cycle is going to be, okay? But in any event, whether you're a beginner in your 60s or you are just plain in your 60s after 40 years of training, or you're in your 20s and you're training, overcompensation as bodybuilders. Overcompensation is our goal. Hypertrophy, growth, not just recovery. You can say, I can recover just fine on 5 workouts a week when you're in your 60s, and I'll come right back at you and say, well, yeah, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and just recover. But you sure are leaving gains on the table that potentially are there, but you're not willing to take an extra day off or 2 because of it, or to attain those gains. So because of that, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble when it comes to your progress. You're still digging a hole of energy in your subsystems, okay, as you go throughout the decades. And the other big factor to consider is when you go, a lot of you guys, just like myself, when you go from your 20s to your 40s, I was much stronger in my 40s than I was in my 20s. Because of that, a squat, let's say, a 10 rep set of squats in my 20s with 225 in my early 20s, dug a hole this deep. But in my 40s, a 10 rep squat with 405 dug a hole this deep. That's a fact. So my recovery ability, even if it may be equal in my 20s and 40s, it's still going to take longer to get back to baseline, to get back to recovered. And now overcompensation can happen. You see? So it doesn't matter whether I'm in my 20s or my 40s. Strength, the ability to do more damage, is something to consider as well. Does this all sound confusing? Well, some of it is in the way that you have to consider the factors of your experience. Notice I didn't say age, but your experience, how long you've been working out. The intensity of your workouts. I'm saying you should only be doing super intense workouts once every 3 to 5 days as you go into your 40s, 50s, and 60s. Does that mean you can't do lower intensity workouts not to fail your workouts in between? Doesn't mean that at all. You can go ahead and do that if you want to go to the gym more days of the week. And then lastly, well, as you just are getting older, the ability to do those workouts and do them intensely and being much stronger, at some point in time you risk injury if you don't take enough time to recover, because there's some micro damage done to the soft tissues, as well, soft tissues are your muscles, your tendons, and then of course your ligaments and your joints. You want them to recover and get tougher as well, okay? A great example that was once given to me was a wound healing model. So we've seen this, young children. When you were a teenager, you could cut your forearm, scratch it on a branch, let's say, as you're walking through, by some trees. You scratch it on a branch, and it might bleed. Okay, within a matter of a couple of days, that thing is crusted over, and a few more days, it's sealed over, completely mended itself, and the crust falls off and it's gone. Within a week, it seems like it's a forgotten thing. Maybe there's a little pink line there if it's deep enough. But man, how many people have you seen as they get older? Wow. The same person getting older into their 60s, 70s, and 80s, that same wound, it can take twice as long to heal. And that right there tells us something. You understand? That right there tells us that if that's taking twice as long to heal, then your workouts, recovering from even your workouts, is going to take twice as long to heal. So think of it in those terms that, when you're 50 plus, recovering from very intense and or heavy, I think that's the third time I've said it, very intense and or heavy workouts can take twice as long. Translation, take twice as many days off in between those intense and or heavy workouts where you're just going for it. Does it mean you can't go for it? Does it mean that you can't train intensely? No, not at all. You may, in fact, have a better ability to train intensely as you get older with a better neuromuscular connection between your brain and your muscles. In other words, your body knows what to do. It's like riding a bike. It plain knows how to do your weight training even better, more efficiently, how to target a muscle that much better as you get older. I have found that to be true. I recently turned 60, and certainly at this point in time in my life, I do have a better ability than I did when I was 20 to contract my muscles, connect with it from my brain. In your 20s, you're kind of hoisting some weights, and hopefully, based on where you got sore from those workouts, right, you can determine if you got the right mind-muscle connection. But as you get older, you can actually feel the muscles more. Okay? Another factor to consider is when you're older, once you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, the majority of your mass, overall, your full mass, it's been built. Your lean mass. I'm not talking about how big you are in your t-shirt, your tank top. Excuse me. I'm not talking about how big you look in your sweat jacket. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, because anybody could put 3 inches on their waist and their arm grow a half an inch. Anybody can. That's what we call being fat. I'm talking about you putting on quality lean mass, and as you get older, when you get in those 50s and 60s, you've pretty much acquired all of the major lean mass you're going to attain. But that becomes a fun time for you to specialize in certain body parts. What parts of your body have historically been a little bit weaker in development? Which ones need more attention? Focus on those for a while. Maybe give it a year. If your back has been weak, maybe find and experiment with different types of techniques and workouts and exercises to hit your back muscles properly. So the majority of that mass has already been built, but it's a fun time. It's a really fun time to be able to go and say, I want to train and specialize in these body parts. But I'm of the opinion, and you know from my videos, never say never. Never say I'm done. Never say, oh, it's over with. I might as well, it's why bother working out hard? Nothing really is going to happen from that workout. You know what? It is as you say. If you say that is the way it is for you, I agree. It is the way it is for you. But for me, nuh-uh. That's not the way it is. My workouts are fun and they're intense and I have a great time doing them. I look forward to them because I'm always thinking like a bodybuilder. It hasn't gone away after 40 years. And you shouldn't either. It's fun. Okay? And who knows where the limits are? Just because a bunch of people before us, crashed and burned or didn't get it right, doesn't mean that you don't have to get it right as you get older. And maybe getting it right is finding a way of retaining or having more lean muscle mass than other people your age when you hit 65 or 70. Abnormal amounts without hormone replacement therapy. How about that? That's an interesting one right there, right? It's a whole other video, but we're not going to go there today. So listen, training intensely. As you get on in the decades in your bodybuilding career, how does it look? Well, when you're in your 20s, is the simple bottom line right here. When you're in your 20s, you may be able to train 5 or 6 days a week and go intensely 5 or 6 days a week and lift heavy 5 or 6 days a week on top of that. Okay, great. As you get into your 40s, no longer does that exist. Not if you want to make progress. 20 years later, it's not happening that way. And you're going to mount up injuries if you try to do that. So what do? Instead of training intensely 5 or 6 days a week, at that point, you can modify it to where you're training intensely 3 times a week. And maybe doing 3, if you want to go to the gym still, 3 not to failure workouts or 3 less intense workouts, lighter workouts. I could redefine it in any way you want to define it, okay? That's the way we would do it, right? So as you get into your 60s, another 20 years later, I'm there. What does that look like? Well, you get into your 60s now and you might only be able to pull that trigger and, let's say, squeeze it. Pulling a trigger, you never hit the target when you pull it. So squeezing the trigger. You might be able to squeeze that trigger and do it the right way. Balls out, all out intensity, fiery hot in the gym and all that stuff. You may be able to do that just once every 3 to 5 days, just like I said in the thumbnail and the title of this video. What does the rest of your week look like? Well, train. Not to failure, train less intense, train lighter. Movement is gold as you're getting on in those years. So go after that. Movement. So that's it for today. Hope I gave you a lot to think about. That's it for today from my heart to you, John Hart. Before you go, off to my left, you're going to see the subscribe button for my channel. Please give that thing a tap. Subscribe to my channel. And then down below and off to your left, you're going to see a thumbs up button. Give the channel and this video a thumbs up and let the YouTube algorithm know how much you like my channel. And it'll light it up, and me too. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.